Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today we are going to finish Daniel. Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that same time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book of life. A little bit of context for this chapter 12. In the book of Daniel, the last three chapters, they go together. Chapters 10, 11, and 12. It's the same event. It's the same prophecy, same vision. Gabriel is continuing on with the prophecy he's giving to Daniel. And he says, at that time, 4 things are going to happen at that time. The Antichrist is going to plant his tabernacle. Michael the archangel is going to stand up. The Great Tribulation will begin, which is the last 3.5 years of this age, the second half of Daniel's 70th week, and Daniel's people will be delivered. If you're looking for a cross-reference, this is the same instance as Matthew 24:21. It's the same event happening here. And of course, this phrase here, thy people, just like every single other time in this book, all these visions, I don't want to say that if you're a modern-day Christian, you don't have to worry about it, but it doesn't apply to us. This vision is given to Daniel and thy people, his people, the Jewish people. If you're in the modern day church, we will have no direct participation of this, not on this side of the earth, that is. Verse 2, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. So he's talking about 2 different resurrections here. The first resurrection for the righteous, and the second resurrection for the unrighteous. It doesn't say it here in Daniel, but if you're familiar with Revelations, specifically Revelations 20 verses 4 through 6, there's 1,000-year time difference between these 2 resurrections, and that's going to be the millennial reign of Christ. This phrase says that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. This is just talking about their physical bodies, not their souls. Their souls, as taught everywhere else in Scripture, souls, depending on your righteousness or lack thereof, you will either go to heaven or hell. There is no soul sleep or purgatory taught in Scripture. Verse 3, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. This is in reference to modern day gospel preachers. 4, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. What's he say? He says, shut the book. This is at a later time. Again, over 2,000 years later, we're still waiting on the fulfillment of a lot of the prophecies in Daniel. This phrase, this prophecy here, knowledge shall be increased. I gotta be honest, I'm still trying to figure out what this means. I've had a lot of people tell me that this prophecy is just being generally fulfilled because of like modern day technology and all the playing cell phones technology, all that like computers and PlayStations, I guess all that fulfills that prophecy. But I don't know if I'm 100% convinced on that. On the other hand, I have not found a better answer. So if you guys have any ideas, I would absolutely love to hear that in the comments below. 5, then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood the other 2, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. Again, this river, probably the same river as earlier, the Hiddekel River, and could be the modern day Tigris River, but we don't know for sure. 6, and one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for time, times, and a half, when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Verse 7 is quite similar to Revelations 10:6. Another key detail I'll point out, to scatter the power of the holy people. Right, the Jewish nation, the Jewish people will be scattered, but they will not be destroyed. The Christ will save them. And in this chapter, there are 3 time periods you got to keep in mind here. This first one is given here in verse 7. It is time, times, and a half. It stands for 42 months, 3.5 years, right? That second half of the 70th week of Daniel. 8, and I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? So he's talking about now Daniel's asking the question, What about after the scattering of the Jews, right? What happens after? What happens next? 9 to the end of the chapter, he's all answers to that question. So let's see what he says. 9. And he said, "Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days." That phrase right there, 1,290 days, that is going to be the second time period talked about in this chapter of Daniel. And then verse 12, "Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,305 days. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days." And that right there in verse 12, that's the third final time period talked about in this chapter, the 1,335 days. That 1,335 days is 75 extra days onto the original time period. The last 75 days will be the last of that time period will be the last 75 days of this era of the earth. It will be the last 75 quote unquote normal days before the millennial begins. It has 18 important events to turn the earth from its current state to the future millennial fixed version of the earth, such as the Battle of Armageddon, rounding up Satan, the Antichrist, the false prophet, throwing them into the abyss, and of course sending out the resurrected saints to inhabit and help rule over their respective parts of the earth. And the last part, I say that because verse 13, "But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest," right? He's talking to Daniel. Daniel will rest and stand in his lot at the end of the days, right? And the end of the days, the very end of the days, Daniel and all the resurrected saints with him will stand in their lots and help rule.